Well, hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am super excited about today's video because we're going to be making salt cellars, as you probably read in the title, and that's why you clicked. Or you clicked because you were wondering what a salt cellar was, which I did not know for a while. A salt cellar is a little container that you store your rock salt in. Rock salt meaning like bigger chunks of salt that usually you want to like pinch and sprinkle over like steak or salmon or something like that. I'm gonna show you how I make them. Let's get on to the salt cellars. Each salt cellar that I throw is just around 1 pound. So I have my handy dandy little scale. To make a lot of uniform things, it is so important to just weigh out your clay because it makes it so much easier to make the same shape and size of something. I can always take off clay on the top, so usually, leave yourself a little wiggle room. And plus, these are all coming out to be kind of 1.7, 1.8, yeah. So, at least they will be uniform. For the first salt cellar that we're gonna make, it's going to be a closed form. That way the salt has a little protected roof over its head, not to get any kind of like splatters from the kitchen or, I don't know, dust, debris, moisture, etc. I guess that's also what you could make a lid for, which we also can do that, but if you want, one of the ways to make a lid is also with a closed form. So we're gonna go over how to make salt cellars with a little door out of a little slanted cup and also perhaps a lidded one. Once you get your evenly pulled cylinder, I like to collar it in a little bit and then take a tool for the base. You absolutely do not have to do this. It's just something I like to do to a lot of my pieces that I'm not gonna do a lot of trimming on just because of the nature of the piece. So I'll put in this little foot now. Alright, once we have that, make sure that there's no water in there because since it's a closed form, that's not going to be coming out anytime soon. And collar and close up the top. Once you close up the top, you really can only change the shape minimally because there is the air pressure inside of the clay now in the middle pushing against you if you want to do major changes. It's nice because you can push on the top and it won't collapse because you have that pressure of air, but if you don't like the rest of the shape of the piece, you can't really change it once you close it up, at least not majorly. All right, step number 1 of the closed form, done. This one is going to be really round on the bottom. So I didn't make a perfectly flat bottom on the inside. But we kind of want like this roundish shape. Also, this is looking too big and too tall for this one, so I'm gonna take off the top. Next, I'm going to take this type of a cool metal shape tool and take off a lot of that bottom so that it looks like a curve. We can plop this right now. Are you ready? Look at that. absolutely plopped, and that is exactly what we want. Reach in there, grab your salt, sprinkle, sprinkle. How fun is that? Plopped. And once you get centered, go ahead and open up like normal. This is gonna be a closed form, so just remember to have a good, nice flat bottom that has good straight angle on that wall so that you can actually have this be functional and usable. All right, beautiful straight walls, and now we color it in. I also like to sometimes use the extra clay at the top to make the little knob for the lid. Now comes the fun part. This is just a wooden chopstick from a Chinese restaurant, and you can use, gosh, anything really. You can use a pencil, end of a pencil even, or anything that has a blocky kind of an end. And what we're gonna do is indent where we're going to cut the top of the lid off and then trim it and what the bottom will be. So let's decide where we want that to be. I think right here should be good. So keep your hand very steady and press in. The nice way that this way of working with lids is that you don't really have to struggle with matching up the size. You will have to trim to match up perfectly a little bit, so there will still be a slight, struggle with that down the road, and make sure not to over glaze so that they still fit inside of each other. But for the most part, you don't have to mess with calipers too much to make this work. Now, the trick with these, and you cannot forget this, you have to poke a hole in the side here for a place for the air to escape, because if you don't, the clay will shrink a little bit and it will kind of like puff up and be lopsided on some side because the air inside is not shrinking. It can also crack your pot once it starts to shrink and dry out a little bit. So don't forget to poke, very important. I am going to let those dry. Obviously, it has to be leather hard for the next time that we touch those. I called in my good friend Chuck. This is Chuck. And with using a chuck, you can either throw it and just have it fresh, or fire one and have one that's like reusable in like a size that you always use. And then it's great for trimming the bottom of like rounded top things, or small open mouth vases or skinny top vases. You just plop it right in there and it's so useful. I remember when I first learned about chuck, I was like, wait, I don't have to hand carve the bottoms of all my little bottles. It was a lifesaver. So if you've never used your friend Chuck before for your little tiny vases and such, you just center and throw a piece of clay. You open it up to the size. I just guesstimated the size of the opening, but you can always adjust the size of the opening, obviously, to fit whatever you're trimming. And I do like to kind of clean up a lot of the slip on the outside so it's not super wet, because one time I trimmed something with a chuck and it was like a really skinny smallmouth vase, and I didn't really get the slip off, so it was really sticky, so they both attached to each other, and then when I took the one that I was trimming off, it like completely ripped apart. So clean the slip off a little bit. Don't have them attached to each other. We're going to Obviously trim the bottom of a few more of these, and I'll walk through this one in case you need more detail. If you don't need more detail on how to trim this, then you could just skip ahead a little bit. Putting the piece on the chuck, you kind of got to make sure that it's even in terms of how slanted it is. So sometimes I'll just use my finger and then I'll adjust. You could use a level if you want, but I feel like using your finger is sufficient. If you put your finger kind of in the shape of an L and then support it with your other hand, you can be able to tell if a certain part is touching your finger more often, or like consistently it's going around and touching that part of your finger, which means that part is higher, and then you just gotta move it until it's all consistently touching the bottom of your finger. For these, I'm not trimming a complicated foot or a complicated bottom or anything like that, just because I did make them pretty thin, and these won't be holding like water or food or anything, so it doesn't need to be, you know, have that table to piece separation. Sometimes you need that because clay never really is fully vitrified, meaning like it has all of the water and it's completely tight. All the particles are completely tight. There's always a little bit of water left in clay. So when you have like hot things in your cup, sometimes it can like sweat just a little bit on the table, which is why I put a foot on the bottom of things so that you don't get that condensation mark. I like to go decently slow. You don't have to go fast when trimming whatsoever. And this is really just to make sure it's flat, make sure it's clean, get off any boogers, just clean it up, and then just lift up. They're all kind of different shapes because I'm figuring out what shape is best. The trimming always happens at this stage because when we do other things like cut out the door and such, it wouldn't fit perfectly in our little friend chuck. Not all of the salt cellars that I threw yesterday are leather hard yet, so I'm only doing the ones that are ready to be trimmed. But you're getting the concept. And now it's time for the lidded vessel trimming. I know this is the one you guys have probably been most curious and excited about, and I absolutely love trimming these. They are my favorite. So first, we're gonna trim the lid off. So I'm gonna take an X-Acto knife, you can take any kind of sharper knife, and then cut on the bottom, so closer to the base, not closer to the lid, so that the lid will have that flange that we created with the chopstick. So you're gonna cut that slowly around and around a few times, go all the way through. You're gonna take that lid off, and then from there you can trim the lid to size and trim the base to size and just make sure that they fit nice and snug. And if you actually trim this when it's a little bit wetter than leather hard, if you trim too far, you can actually smush the base down and make that thicker if you needed that to be bigger instead of trim more away. And then when you have that top done, you can go ahead and flip it over and then trim the base. You could trim a foot or you can trim it flat, and bada bing, bada boom, you have a beautiful, fitting, perfect lidded vessel. Now it's time for the little salt cellar doors. I loved making these and I got better as I went along and went through them. So let me just tell you what I learned. First of all, sketching out the little circle of the door and changing the shape depending on the shape of the closed form really was helpful. Remember, just like a story is not written, it's rewritten. A perfect circle is not drawn, it's redrawn, baby girl. Keep drawing it until you get the favorite one that you like, because there's really only so many times you can cut. I'm using a sharp X-Acto knife because it's not gonna tear as much as using a clay knife would. And I go around where I cut, and honestly, this is what I started to learn after I started doing more and more and cutting more of the doors. I love that these are a little bit more wet than leather hard because you can wet your finger and go around and around and around in that door and then push and pull and kind of make that door your own personal favorite shape. And it'll get bigger and you can kind of push on the top like this and make a little like roof type of a thing, not a roof, like a, what's it called? Awning. Like you'll push with a wet finger and make a little awning over in your hole. So the hole does not have to be completely perfect because there's so much variety that you can add with your little wet finger. So remember, circle, 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 draw your little shape, and then get a wet finger and push all around it. And then look at these, aren't they so cute? Since this is for salt, I'm gonna put a little spoon holder, and this is such an essential thing when you have a lidded vessel, either to put one or to not put one. And I think to have one is such a convenience because who knows where to put a spoon except for in a drawer, and you don't want it laying around. So if you cut the hole, make sure to outline on the top, like what's going to be seen where you want that hole to make sure it's the size that you'd like. And then when you pick it up, go ahead and cut through the flange and into the marking. So it's going to be a bigger cut than you actually can see. Ooh, Salt Cellar bisque fired fits perfectly. They're out of the kiln. I made a million of them. Well, not a million, I made 50 of them, but 50 felt like a lot. Of course, you guys do not need to be making this many. I know that maybe you clicked on this to see the process or to learn how to make a salt cellar, but I do recommend that you at least make a minimum of 2. This helps you create with intentionality, create something twice, also become better at it, learn a little bit more about it, and as you know, if you are a potter or have done pottery, you know that things don't always work out. It's the next day, and I actually did not film the glazing of these salt cellars. I didn't really think that it was necessary for the video, so instead, join me and enjoy watching me make my absolute favorite breakfast ever, which is avocado toast and eggs with a beefsteak tomato. Oh my gosh, it's so yummy. Now I did not include the smush salt cellar in this because I actually didn't glaze it for the end of this video, so we're just going to assess the closed form and the lidded one. That is how you make a closed form salt cellar and a 2-part lidded salt cellar. I don't have any rock salt, and it is supposed to be used with rock salt, but at the same time, you could just keep it in there, just regular salt. Since salt is something that you use all the time, I find this really convenient. You should let me know which one you would prefer, if it's the open form one or if it's the lidded vessel. I would love to know which one you prefer. I'm not sure which one I like more at the moment. I really don't know. Whenever I'm eating, of course, we always have visitors. I love avocado toast. I truly do hope that you enjoyed this video and got something out of it. Hopefully you'll be able to use this closed form technique or the lidded jar technique. And at the very least, I hope that you found it entertaining or it brought you some sort of comfort or hopefully inspiration, because as you know, I am a huge proponent of encouraging people to create things. Because your art and what you create and what you put out in the world is so important. It matters. The process is what matters. It increases the enjoyment of your life and other people's experiences. So please, please keep creating, keep experimenting, keep enjoying the process. And most importantly, please remember that art is so important, and so are you, my friend. I will see you next week.